So tonight, this is going to be so much fun. We're going to talk about 7 ways to use ice cube trays to help your picky eater take a taste. If you've watched any of my YouTube videos or been a participant on these Monday nights with Coach Mel, you know that I'm all about helping kids take small tastes of a variety of foods. That's the way all of us learn to be really adventurous eaters, and we learn to love a variety of foods, is we just take tiny tastes over time until eventually we eat more and more and more because we become more comfortable with not only the taste, but the texture, the temperature, the weight of it on our tongue, all the sensory properties of food. We're going to focus on ice cube trays tonight because I've got 7 different ways that you can use them to encourage your child to take a taste. And the main thing to remember is that when you're using an ice cube tray, it's going to be a little tricky because I have to tilt it so you can kind of see what's in there. You can tell I've only got one little bite of everything in there. I've got a few extras here in the corner. Let me grab those and take those out. Sorry about that. There we go. I've only got a little bit in every single section. Now, a lot of people will use muffin tins for this strategy, and you know, muffin tins are really fun. I'm going to show you an example of one later. But the reason why I prefer an ice cube tray is because the sections are so small. We want to keep it underwhelming. So the first thing you're going to do is just put one piece of food in every section, and you don't want any more than, you know, about a dozen. You can even use the smaller silicone trays that you sometimes get at the specialty food stores. Or right now, I've noticed that with Halloween coming up, they have little candy molds and ice cube molds in the shape of pumpkins. Those are fun. You know, grab a bunch of those, especially the day after the holiday, and save them throughout the year. You can have a fun time with pumpkins even in January. That's cool. So it's fun to have different ones. So with this one, the best tip I can tell you is that what you want to do is create a pattern from left to right. So I'm actually going to dump these out for a second so that I can hold it up straight for you and show you that when the little kiddo has the tray in front of them, you're going to be working with them so that they go from, in my case, I'm looking at my left to right. You could start on the bottom if you wanted, but most kids will start up here. And here's the trick. You want to have a highly preferred food, like let's say they love goldfish crackers, okay? So that's their highly preferred food. And then you want a semi-preferred food, one of those foods that, you know, on a good day they might eat it, but they'd really rather have goldfish crackers. And then finally, that new food that you think they're capable of tasting. They have all the motor skills to do so. They're very safe to taste it, but they're just a little hesitant. It's just new. It's just not familiar. Okay, here's the pattern you're going to follow. And I'll put this in the comments for you, but I just want to walk you through it. This is the most helpful tip when you're using ice cube trays to encourage to take a taste. What you want to do is start with your highly preferred food. Then you're going to put your semi-preferred food. And then right here, I would probably put a little treat, like a little M&M, or in this case, a chocolate-covered raisin, or you know, whatever it happens to be, a mini chocolate chip, something itty-bitty, but something that's fun. Do you see how we've already started with highly preferred, semi-preferred? The highly preferred is just to boost it, just to get the game going. Then the semi-preferred, and then something really special. Now, you're not bribing the kid. You're not saying, you know, eat this and then you can have your M&M. We're never saying that. That's not the point. The point is that as the child looks from left to right, which is building early reading skills, by the way, then they see, oh, that looks good. And they're more likely to try that itty-bitty bite of the semi-preferred food. So then you go with your little chocolate chip or whatever it happens to be, and then I would go to the semi-preferred food again, because now you're on your way. And then you could do your highly preferred food, and then semi-preferred food, and then chocolate chip. So you're probably only going to have like 3 chocolate chips in here total, or M&Ms, whatever you want to use. But the point is that every other section is easy. It's highly preferred or a little treat. And that in between those is the semi-preferred food. I love to always compare feeding therapy to skiing, probably because I live here in Colorado and I'm a terrible skier. But I always explain to the parents that I work with here in Colorado that this method is like when your kid first learns how to ski and they are just zipping down the bunny hill with no problem. You know, have you ever noticed they always have one little mogul in that bunny hill so kids can practice the mogul? Well, that semi-preferred food is that one little mogul. But then they get instant relief and they keep having fun, and then they go over another mogul and they have a chance to recover, and they start to see that this is actually pretty easy. If you're going to use an ice cube tray like this, and you're going to do some sort of patterning like we talked about, you also want to ask yourself, what is my goal for this child? So for example, I had a cute little guy that I've been working with for 3 years, and he started out only eating 2 foods when he was a toddler, and now he's pretty much eating anything and everything. But he'll only try one type of soup. So I could, I don't know, every third one or so, have an inch of soup in there. And what I would suggest is taking a super skinny straw and just cutting it down so that you can insert the straw where the soup's going to be, and he can just lean over and take a little sip. 1 sip is all we're asking for. He doesn't have to have more than that. He can certainly have more if he'd like it. If he's really comfortable doing that, and now you've gotten to a point where, let's say it's tomato soup, that he can have tomato soup maybe a couple inches in a cup and he's fine, now you're ready to move on to other types of soups. So in that case, what I would do is I would do tomato soup, the highly preferred, the new soup that's pretty similar to tomato. So I would make it something that's all one consistency, it doesn't have chunks in it, maybe even it's just even the broth from chicken noodle with no noodles. Unless he loves noodles, you might put a few in there. So you have to kind of look at the kit. Okay, so highly preferred soup, semi-preferred soup, treat. Semi-preferred soup again, right? You're following the pattern? Highly preferred, maybe semi-preferred, treat. Kind of play around with it, but the key is that when you pair something desirable with something that it's okay, I'm not totally scared of it, but I'm not keen on it, it's going to go much better if it's bookend by 2 highly preferred foods. Make sense? Or a treat and a highly preferred food. It gets the kids' momentum going. Okay, let's talk about another little tip here. When you're doing ice cube trays, hang on 1 second, lots to handle here for you. Now I've got these little chocolate covered raisins in here as my little treat, but I've also got some blueberries, so they kind of look alike. One of the things I love about ice cube trays is if you have a child who is really hesitant to pick up foods and doesn't have the best fine motor skills to actually fork the food themselves, yet you want to try a lot of different tastes while they're building those skills, you can definitely add some cute little toothpicks. Here's a little cherry tomato with a cute toothpick. I just got these from the dollar store. Or sometimes I'll go to fancy cooking stores like Sur La Table and get, you know, some really fancy cupcake toppers and use those. You can use a variety of things. Here's some fancy jewels on top of a little blueberry. But whatever you want to use, if they're on their individual skewers or toothpicks, you'll have a lot more success because all they have to do is pick it up and put it in their mouth versus if they have fine motor difficulties, them actually working on that. Now, if you're going to work on fine motor skills, if you happen to be an OT or early educator, whatever it happens to be, parents practicing this at home, that's not the time to pair it with a taste challenge like this. You want to practice fine motor skills with a highly preferred food or even a special treat that's easy to poke. The other thing I love about ice cube trays is that it works very well to work on fine motor skills. So in this case, I might see my pincer grasp, okay? I'm sorry, just totally told you wrong. It works very well to work on a pincer grasp because your fingers barely fit into the section. Plus, they have a little bit of a boundary for this finger and for this thumb, which provides some stability for that child to reach in and grasp that blueberry rather than having it roll all over it. So that's why we use a muffin tin. You want something that provides some boundary and really creates this shape for that fine motor pincer grasp. Okie dokie. Now that I have blueberry fingers. Another really fun way to use the same concept. You know, everybody always knows how much I love easypeasyfun.com. And they have this great mat, and it's called a play mat. Now, I love this one because it's super duper underwhelming. I'm just going to show you for a second. You can see this whole thing will suction right onto the table, but I'm going to hold it this way so you can get a little better idea of the little flower that's in there. If you wanted to use the flower and have a piece of food in every single petal, you sure could. You could put a dip here if that's going to help that child try a new food, or you could put the treat here. And just the only rule is that they're going to go in a circle. So my suggestion would be that if you were going to start with a little treat here, that I would also put one treat right here, perhaps if that's the petal they're going to start with, again, to get the momentum going, because frankly, once you have one M&M, you are ready for the second, right? You can never eat just one. So if you get a little momentum going and you're working around this way, and then you end up with another M&M, you can almost refill it if you wanted to. I like this because it only has a few compartments. And you can use the rest of the mat. You can actually color right on this. You can put markers on it, use markers on it. Gosh, you can do beading with it, whatever it happens to be, but I love it for this particular game. So that brings me to, how do you get the kids to do this in the first place? Well, you have to keep in mind that learning to eat is a step-by-step process. Learning to taste new foods is a step-by-step process. So if you've got a kid who won't even touch the food and will still only eat 3 foods, he's not ready for this. But if you've got a child who's starting to get a little bit brave, he's got 4 or 5 different foods, and he's feeling pretty comfortable about trying some easy new foods, this is a great way to do it. You can tie it into games if you'd like. Like I was doing this with the little boy with the soup that I was telling you about the other day. And we actually had that game Block Us in front of us. So every time he took a sip of soup, then he got to move his piece onto the Block Us game board. And likewise, I had some soup, I had to take a sip, and then I would do it as well. So it's that taking and that reward. But what do you do if the kid's like stalled at that 3rd section, right? And he doesn't want to go any farther? You don't worry about it. Don't even worry about it. If he wants to be done at that point, that's totally fine. It's more about continuing to present something fun like this that looks super underwhelming. They'll get better and better at it over time. You might be smart about it though, and if he's always stopping at the 3rd one, I would put the treat probably at the 5th one. Does that make sense? Because then he's going to do 1, 2, 3 with ease. He's done that the past couple times. He's probably going to take 1 more bite, and then he's going to get his treat and he might stop. You just got 5 bites in instead of 3. So you just have to think through it a little bit. Let's talk about one other strategy that I talk in my, I have a 6-hour course called Parenting in the Kitchen, Home Strategies for Families and Feeding Therapy. And I'm going to be teaching it in New York City in just 2 weeks. So I'll put those links in the comment section for you. There's still time to sign up for that. It's for parents or professionals. And one of the things we're going to talk about is a nibble tray. So do you remember earlier, just a few minutes ago, I was telling you I'm not a big fan of using muffin tins. I'm not against it, but I'd rather use something smaller and more compartmentalized, a smaller section. But I do use, this happens to be a brownie pan, but I do use muffin tins like this when kids come in the room, mom's trying to make dinner, maybe the kids aren't participating for whatever reason, maybe dad just picked them up from soccer practice and they all run in the door, and what's the first thing they say? I'm starving. And it's still going to be 20 minutes until dinner's ready. What I recommend families do is that they, every single night, it's so easy to whip one of these up. You grab your muffin tin or your brownie tray in this case, you already have it in the fridge, and it's just got little healthy nibbles in it, Not a lot. Look, you guys, I don't know how well you can see this at this angle, but I've got 2 cherry tomatoes. I've got 5 tiny pieces of cheese. See, I didn't fill up the entire thing. I don't want them to fill their bellies before dinner. But when they say, I'm starving, this way, if it's mom making dinner, she can say, yeah, hey, listen, I got a nibble tray. We can all nibble on this while we're helping to make dinner. Get everybody in the kitchen, or if the child doesn't want to participate, you can put this down in front of them, but the key is you nibble from it too as you're cooking. And there's not going to be anything in here that's going to fill bellies too much. This would be adequate for a family of 4. It's kind of like a little appetizer. And you know what? If your kids fill up on tomatoes and a little bit of cheese and almonds, and you know, even right here, I've got a tiny bit of hummus to dip into. Let's say that their least favorite thing are snap peas from the garden or dried apricots. But if everybody's nibbling on this, and then we get down to just this or just this, and they're still hungry and they don't, dinner is coming in a few minutes, they are probably going to say, I want some more raisins, or I want some more cheese, whatever their favorite is. The rule is you never refill the nibble tray, ever. Don't ever refill it. You just say, remember the rule in our family? We can nibble what's on the nibble tray, and dinner's going to be ready in just a minute. That way they have the option of trying some more, which would be great, right? Or just waiting for dinner. And kids nowadays, they really lost the ability to wait. They want everything instantly. It's just the way our society is with all the technology. And it's a good thing for them to learn to wait.